Eric Daniels sat alone in his large office on the top floor of a tall glass building in downtown Seattle. Rain tapped against the windows as he looked out at the gray sky. He had everything money could buy. His company, Future Tech, was worth billions. His face was on the covers of business magazines. People wanted to be his friend because he was rich and powerful. But on this Tuesday evening, Eric felt empty inside. He was 42 years old and had no one to share his success with. No wife, no children, no real friends, just people who wanted something from him. Eric closed his laptop and stood up. His stomach growled. He had missed lunch again while working on a new project. His assistant had made a reservation at Altura, the fanciest restaurant in town, but Eric didn't feel like going there tonight. He didn't want to be recognized. He didn't want to smile and shake hands with people who only saw his money. "I'm heading out, Nancy," he told his assistant as he grabbed his coat. "Cancel my reservation at Altura." "But Mr. Daniels, they don't take cancellations this late," Nancy said with worry in her voice. "Then send them a big tip for the trouble," Eric replied. He didn't care about the money. He never had to think about money anymore. Outside, the rain fell harder. Eric got into his black Tesla and drove away from the shiny downtown buildings. Without really planning to, he found himself driving toward his old neighborhood, the place where he grew up before he became rich and famous. Maple Street hadn't changed much in 25 years. The same small houses with small yards. The same corner store where he used to buy candy with quarters. The same diner where he and his friends would go after school for milkshakes when they had enough money saved up. Joe's Diner. The sign was older now, the red letters not as bright. But it was still there. Eric parked his car and sat for a moment watching people through the windows of the diner. Regular people with regular lives. People who didn't have to wonder if others liked them only for their money. A few raindrops hit his head as he walked from his car to the diner. The bell above the door jingled when he walked in, just like it used to when he was in high school. The smell of coffee and fried food filled the air. Only a few customers sat in the booths, an old man reading a newspaper, a young couple sharing a milkshake, a woman with 2 tired children eating pancakes for dinner. Eric chose a booth in the corner away from the other customers. He took off his expensive coat and placed it beside him. In his simple blue sweater, he looked like any other customer. No one would know he was one of the richest men in America. A waitress walked over with a menu. She wore a blue uniform with a white apron. Her brown hair was tied back in a ponytail. She looked tired with small lines around her eyes that showed years of hard work. "Coffee to start?" she asked without looking up from her order pad. "Yes, please," Eric said. Something about her voice sounded familiar. When she looked up to give him a small smile, Eric's heart nearly stopped. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. They used to light up in math class when she solved a hard problem before anyone else. The waitress seemed to notice something too. She looked at him more carefully. The menu in her hand shook a little. "Eric?" she asked in a quiet voice. "Eric Daniels?" Eric couldn't believe it. After all these years, after all his success, here in this small diner was the girl who had once been his best friend, the smartest person he had ever known. "Linda?" he said, his voice full of surprise. "Linda Miller?" The woman nodded. Her name tag said Linda in faded red letters. She almost dropped her order pad. "I can't believe it's you," she said. "I see your face in the news sometimes, the big tech genius, but I never thought I'd see you in person again." Eric stood up from his seat. He wanted to hug her, but he wasn't sure if that would be okay. They hadn't spoken in 25 years. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "You were going to MIT. You were going to change the world with your brain." Linda's smile faded a little. She looked around the diner. Another customer was trying to get her attention. "I need to take their order," she said. "I'll bring your coffee." Before Eric could say anything else, Linda walked away. He watched her move from table to table, writing down orders, carrying plates of food. Her shoulders were bent slightly, like she carried a heavy weight. Eric's mind filled with memories. Linda and him studying together for math tests. Linda explaining complex problems to him when he didn't understand. Linda being the first person to tell him he was smart enough to work with computers. If not for her, he might never have applied to computer science programs. He might never have started Future Tech. Linda returned with his coffee. She placed it on the table with a steady hand. "What can I get you to eat?" she asked in a professional voice, as if they were strangers. "Linda, please," Eric said. "Can you sit down for a minute? Can we talk?" She looked around the diner again. "I'm working, Eric. I can't just sit and chat." "When do you get a break?" he asked. Linda sighed. "In about 20 minutes, but it's only 15 minutes long." "I'll wait," Eric said. "Please, I'd really like to catch up." Something in his voice must have convinced her. She nodded before walking away again. Eric sipped his coffee and watched Linda work. She was efficient and quick, but he could see the tiredness in every movement. This wasn't the Linda he remembered. The Linda from high school had been full of energy and big dreams. She had been the one everyone expected to succeed. What had happened to her? 20 minutes later, Linda slid into the booth across from him. She had a cup of coffee of her own. 15 minutes, she reminded him. "Then I need to get back to work." "You look good," Eric said, though it wasn't entirely true. She looked tired, worn down. Linda gave a small laugh. "You were always a bad liar, Eric, even in high school." She took a sip of her coffee. "You, on the other hand, look exactly like your pictures in Fortune magazine. Success suits you." "I got lucky," Eric said. "No," Linda shook her head. "You worked hard. You were always smart. You just didn't believe in yourself back then." Eric felt a lump in his throat. She was giving him credit when he knew the truth. Without her help, without her belief in him, he wouldn't be where he was today. "What happened, Linda?" he asked gently. "You were going to MIT. You had that full scholarship." Linda's eyes dropped to her coffee cup. She ran her finger around the rim, not meeting his gaze. "Life happened," she said simply. "Tell me," Eric said. "Please." Linda took a deep breath. "I did go to MIT for almost 2 years. Then my mom got sick. Cancer. Terminal. There was no one else to take care of her." Eric felt a weight in his chest. He remembered Linda's mother, a kind woman who had always welcomed him into their home. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I came home to take care of her," Linda continued. "Thought I would go back after, but the medical bills piled up. Even with insurance, I had to take out loans. Then when she passed away, I was in too much debt to go back to school." "But surely there were options," Eric said. "More scholarships, student loans." Linda gave him a tired smile. "Not everyone's path is straight, Eric. I met someone, got married young, had kids, my husband." She paused. "Let's just say he wasn't good with money. By the time we divorced, I had 2 children to support and no degree." Eric felt ashamed of his success in that moment. Here was Linda, who had been so much smarter than him, now working as a waitress. All because of circumstances beyond her control. "Do you like working here?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "It pays the bills," Linda said. "Mostly. I work here during the day and do data entry at night when the kids are asleep. My daughter Allie just started college. She's on scholarship, like I was. My son Jake is 16, a computer whiz like you were." Eric noticed how her face lit up when she talked about her children. Despite everything, she had pride in them. "I should get back to work," Linda said, checking the clock on the troll. "It was nice seeing you, Eric, really." As she stood up, Eric reached out and touched her hand. "Can I come back tomorrow? Maybe we could talk more when you're done with your shift?" Linda looked surprised. "Why would you want to do that?" "Because you were my friend," Eric said. "My best friend, actually. And I just found you again." Linda seemed to consider this for a moment, then she nodded. "I finish at 8 tomorrow night." "I'll be here," Eric promised. As he watched Linda return to work, Eric's mind was already racing with ideas. Linda Miller had once helped him see his own potential. She had changed his life with her belief in him. Now, maybe, he could do the same for her. Eric couldn't focus on work the next day. His mind kept going back to Linda. He canceled 2 meetings and asked his assistant to clear his schedule for the evening. "Is everything okay, Mr. Daniels?" Nancy asked with concern. Everything is fine, Eric said. Better than fine, actually. I just need to take care of something personal. Personal. The word felt strange to Eric. For years, his life had been all about business. When was the last time he had done something truly personal? At 7:30, Eric parked his car outside Joe's diner again. He was early, but he didn't mind waiting. Through the windows, he could see Linda moving between tables. Even from a distance, he could tell she was tired. She moved more slowly than the night before. Eric waited in his car until 8 o'clock, then walked into the diner. Linda was wiping down a table near the door. She looked up and gave him a small smile. You actually came back, she said. I said I would, Eric replied. Linda nodded toward a booth in the corner. Give me 5 minutes to clock out and grab my coat. Eric sat and watched as Linda finished her tasks, spoke briefly to another waitress, then disappeared into the back of the diner. She returned wearing a worn blue coat that looked too thin for the cool Seattle evening. So, she said as she slid into the booth across from him. What did you want to talk about? Eric wasn't sure where to begin. There were so many questions he wanted to ask, so many things he wanted to tell her. Are you hungry? He asked instead. We could go somewhere for dinner. Linda shook her head. I eat here before my shift. Free meal is one of the perks of the job. She glanced at her watch. I don't have a lot of time, Eric. I need to catch the bus in 20 minutes to get home and relieve my neighbor. She watches Jake for me when I work. I could drive you, Eric offered. Linda seemed to hesitate. Then she nodded. That would help. Thank you. They walked to Eric's car in silence. Linda raised her eyebrows when she saw the Tesla. Nice car, she said. It gets me where I need to go, Eric replied, suddenly embarrassed by his wealth. Once they were driving, Eric found it easier to talk. Maybe because he didn't have to look directly at Linda. Maybe because the dark car felt like a safe space for honest conversation. You said you have 2 children? He asked. Yes. Linda's voice softened. Allie is 18. She just started at the University of Washington. Jake is 16 and still in high school. You must be proud of them. I am, Linda said. They're good kids, smart kids. Allie got a scholarship just like I did. She wants to be a doctor. Linda's voice filled with pride. And Jake, he reminds me of you actually. Always taking things apart to see how they work. Always asking questions about computers. Eric smiled at the comparison. And their father? Linda's voice cooled. Not in the picture. He left 6 years ago. Last I heard, he was in Las Vegas. They drove in silence for a minute. Then Linda pointed to a street. Turn here. It's the 3rd building on the right. Eric pulled up in front of a small apartment building. The paint was peeling and one of the front windows was covered with plastic instead of glass. It wasn't in a dangerous neighborhood, but it wasn't a nice one either. This is me, Linda said. She didn't invite him up. Thanks for the ride. Linda, Eric said before she could open the door. I want to help you. Linda stiffened. I don't need charity, Eric. It's not charity, Eric said quickly. I owe you. Linda looked confused. You don't owe me anything. Eric turned in his seat to face her. Do you remember senior year, when I was struggling with calculus? Linda nodded slowly. You were going to drop the class. And you wouldn't let me, Eric continued. You tutored me every day after school for 3 months. You just needed someone to explain it differently, Linda said. You were always smart, Eric. You just learned differently than how Mr. Peterson taught. You were the only person who ever believed I could do something with computers, Eric said. Everyone else thought I was average at best, but you saw something in me that no one else did. Linda looked down at her hands. That was a long time ago. I never forgot it, Eric said, softly. When I started Future Tech, there were so many times I wanted to give up. Times when investors said no, when the technology didn't work, when I felt like a fraud. In those moments, I would remember you telling me I could do it, that I was smarter than I thought. Linda looked up, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I'm glad it helped. You changed my life, Linda, Eric said. Now I want to return the favor. Linda shook her head. I told you I don't want charity. Not charity, Eric said firmly. A job. Linda looked surprised. A job? Doing what? I don't have a degree. I haven't worked in tech in 20 years. You're still one of the smartest people I've ever known, Eric said. And future tech needs smart people. Eric, Linda said gently, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not the same person I was in high school. I don't know anything about modern technology or programming languages. You can learn, Eric said. I'll make sure you have the time and resources to learn. Linda looked out the window at her apartment building. A light turned on in one of the upper windows. That's Jake, she said. He's waiting for me. She turned back to Eric. I need to think about this. It's a lot to process. Eric nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. My personal number is on the back. Call me anytime. Linda took the card and slipped it into her coat pocket. Good night, Eric, and thank you for the ride. Eric watched her walk into the building before driving away. His mind was already racing with plans. He would create a position for Linda, something that would use her intelligence and problem-solving skills, something that would give her the second chance she deserved. The next morning, Eric called the head of human resources at Future Tech. Need information on our education benefits, he said, specifically for employees who want to complete degrees they started years ago. Of course, Mr. Daniels, the HR director said. I'll send that right over. May I ask who this is for? A new hire, Eric said. Someone very important. After the call, Eric searched for Linda online. He found very little, no social media accounts. Just her name listed as an honor roll parent at Jake's high school. 3 days passed with no word from Linda. Eric thought about going back to the diner but decided against it. He had given her his number. The ball was in her court. On the 4th day, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Eric Daniels, he answered. It's Linda, the voice on the other end said. I've been thinking about your offer. Eric held his breath. And? If you're serious, Linda said slowly, I'd like to hear more about it, about the job, about what it would involve. Eric smiled. I'm very serious. Can you come to my office tomorrow? I'll send a car for you. There was a pause on the other end. I don't need a car. I can take the bus. Linda, Eric said gently, if you're going to work at Future Tech, you need to get used to some perks. The car service is for all executives. I'm not an executive, Linda said. Not yet, Eric replied. But you will be. Another pause. You're really serious about this, aren't you? More serious than I've been about anything in a long time, Eric said. So, tomorrow, 10 o'clock. I'll need to be done by 2, Linda said. I have a shift at the diner at 3. About that, Eric said. You might want to tell them you won't be coming in tomorrow or ever again. Linda laughed. It was a nice sound, one he hadn't heard in a long time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I still don't know what this job even is. Tomorrow you will, Eric promised. And Linda, thank you for calling. After they hung up, Eric sat back in his chair and smiled. For the first time in years, he felt excited about something that had nothing to do with stock prices or new technology. He was going to help the person who had once helped him. He was going to give Linda Miller the second chance she deserved. The next morning, a black car pulled up in front of Linda's apartment building exactly at 9:30. The driver, a man in a neat uniform, got out and rang her doorbell. Linda was ready. She had woken up at 5 to get Jake off to school. Then, she had spent nearly an hour trying to decide what to wear. She didn't own anything fancy or expensive. In the end, she chose her best pair of black pants and a simple blue blouse she usually saved for parent-teacher meetings. Mrs. Miller? The driver asked when she opened the door. Ms. Linda corrected him with a small smile. But just call me Linda. The drive to Future Tech headquarters took 30 minutes. Linda looked out the window as they drove through downtown Seattle. Tall glass buildings reached up toward the clouds. She had never been inside any of them. The car stopped in front of the tallest building. The driver opened her door and pointed toward the entrance. "Mr. Daniels is expecting you, Ms. Miller. Take the elevator to the top floor." Linda thanked him and walked into the building. The lobby was all marble and glass. Her worn shoes made soft sounds on the shiny floor. The security guard smiled and waved her through after she gave her name. In the elevator, Linda looked at her reflection in the mirrored walls. She looked tired, nervous. She smoothed her hair and stood up straighter. Whatever this job was, she wanted to look like she deserved it. The elevator doors opened to reveal a large open space with glass walls looking out over the city. A young woman at a desk smiled at her. "Ms. Miller? I'm Nancy, Mr. Daniels' assistant. He's waiting for you." Nancy led Linda through the office. People looked up from their computers as they passed. Linda felt out of place among the well-dressed workers with their sleek laptops and confident smiles. Eric was standing by the windows in a large corner office. He turned when they entered, his face breaking into a wide smile. "Linda, thank you for coming." He walked over and shook her hand. "Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea?" "Coffee would be nice," Linda said. Her mouth felt dry. Nancy left to get the coffee, and Eric showed Linda to a chair in front of his desk. The chair was more comfortable than any chair Linda had ever sat. So," Linda said, looking around the impressive office. "This is where billionaires work." Eric laughed. "This is where I work. Most billionaires have bigger offices." Linda smiled. Eric seemed different here than he had at the diner. More confident, more at ease. This was his world. Nancy returned with coffee for both of them, then closed the door as she left. "I've been thinking about the best way to use your talents," Eric said, getting right to business. "I remember how good you were at solving problems, how you could see solutions that no one else could see." Linda took a sip of her coffee. "That was a long time ago, Eric." "But that kind of thinking doesn't go away," Eric said. "It's part of who you are." He pressed a button on his desk, and a screen on the wall lit up. It showed a simple logo, a bridge made of light. "I want to create a new division at Future Tech," Eric explained. "Something focused on educational technology, programs that help students who are struggling, students who might fall through the cracks without the right support." Linda looked at the logo, then back at Eric. "And you want me to work in this division?" "I want you to lead it," Eric said. Linda nearly spilled her coffee. "Lead it? Eric, that's crazy. I haven't worked in tech ever. I don't have a degree. I don't know the first thing about running a division of a major company." Eric leaned forward. "But you know what it's like to be a student with potential who faces obstacles. You know what it's like to have to choose between education and family, between dreams and reality." Linda couldn't argue with that. "The technical skills can be learned," Eric continued. "The coding, the business side, all of that. I'll make sure you have the best teachers and mentors. But the insight you have, the first-hand experience, that can't be taught." Linda set her coffee cup down. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Why me, Eric? Really? There must be hundreds of people more qualified." Eric's face grew serious. "Do you remember our senior year science project? The one about solar energy?" Linda nodded. "We got an A. We got an A because of you," Eric corrected. "I was ready to do a basic project, something safe. But you pushed for something more innovative. You saw possibilities that I didn't see." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "That's what I've tried to do with Future Tech. See possibilities others don't see. Take risks that others won't take." He turned back to face her. "This is one of those risks. I believe in you, Linda, just like you once believed in me." Linda felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "What about my kids?" she asked. "I can't work crazy hours. Jake needs me at home." "We can work around your schedule," Eric said. "You can work from home when needed. We have excellent benefits, including childcare assistance." He handed her a folder. This outlines the position, the salary, the benefits. Take it home, read it, talk to your kids about it. Linda opened the folder. Her eyes widened when she saw the salary figure. It was more money than she had ever imagined making. More than enough to move to a better apartment, to help Allie with college expenses, to save for Jake's education. "This is too much," she whispered. "It's the standard salary for a division head," Eric said. "I'm not giving you special treatment, Linda. I'm offering you a job that I believe you can do better than anyone else." Linda closed the folder, her mind racing. It was too good to be true. There had to be a catch. "What if I fail?" she asked quietly. "What if I can't learn what I need to learn? What if I'm not who you remember?" Eric sat back down across from her. "Then we'll figure it out together, but I don't think you'll fail." He reached across the desk and put his hand over hers. "Just say yes, Linda. Take a chance." Linda thought about her tiny apartment, about the long hours at the diner, about Allie worrying about money at college, about Jake's dreams of studying computers someday. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "This is a big change." Eric nodded. "Of course. Take the weekend. But there's one more thing I want to show you before you decide." He stood up and motioned for her to follow him. They walked through the office to a different section of the building. Eric used his key card to open a door marked Development Lab. Inside, 20 or so people worked at computers. Large screens on the walls showed colorful diagrams and lines of code. "This is where we develop new products," Eric explained. "New ideas." He led her to a quiet corner where a teenage boy sat at a computer, his fingers flying over the keyboard. It took Linda a moment to recognize him. "Jake?" she gasped. Her son looked up, a big smile on his face. "Hi, Mom. Surprise?" Linda looked from Jake to Eric in confusion. "What is he doing here?" "I invited him," Eric said. "I wanted to see if he really was as good with computers as you said." Jake stood up and showed his mother the screen. "Mr. Daniels gave me this coding problem to solve. He said if I could figure it out, I might be able to get an internship here next summer." Linda turned to Eric. "You didn't tell me about this." "I wanted it to be a surprise," Eric said. "And I wanted you to see that this job isn't just about you. It's about your family, too. Jake has incredible potential, Linda. Just like you did. Just like you still do." Linda watched her son's excited face as one of the developers came over to look at his work. The man seemed impressed by whatever Jake had done. "He's been here since 8, Eric said quietly. "The team loves him already." Linda felt something shift inside her, a door opening to a future she had stopped believing was possible. "When can I start?" she asked. Eric's face broke into a wide smile. "How about Monday?" The next Monday morning, Linda stood in front of her bathroom mirror. She hardly recognized herself. Gone was the tired waitress in a blue uniform. In her place stood a woman in a new navy blue suit. Eric had sent a gift card over the weekend, so she could buy work clothes. Linda had never spent so much money on herself before. She had spent Sunday night telling Jake everything. About her scholarship to MIT. About her dreams of working in technology. About how life had taken her down a different path. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Jake had asked. "I didn't want you to think I had failed," Linda admitted. Jake had hugged her tight. "You never failed, Mom. You took care of us. That's not failure." Now, as she put on small silver earrings that had belonged to her mother, Linda felt both excited and terrified. What if she couldn't do this job? What if Eric was wrong about her? The black car arrived at 8:30. This time, Linda felt a little less out of place as she walked into the Future Tech building. The security guard smiled and handed her an ID badge with her photo on it. Linda clipped it to her jacket and took a deep breath before stepping into the elevator. Nancy was waiting for her on the top floor. "Good morning, Ms. Miller. I'll show you to your office." Her office. Linda could hardly believe it. Yesterday, she had been serving coffee at Joe's Diner. Today, she had an office in one of Seattle's most impressive buildings. The office was smaller than Eric's, but still larger than Linda's entire living room. It had glass walls that looked out over the City and a large desk with a sleek computer. Mr. Daniels will meet you here at 9, Nancy explained. In the meantime, can I get you anything? Coffee would be nice, Linda said. It seemed to be the only normal thing in this new world. Nancy left and Linda walked around the office, touching the desk, looking out the windows. On the desk was a small frame with a photo of Allie and Jake. Linda picked it up, wondering how it got there. I hope you don't mind, Eric said from the doorway. I asked Jake for a recent photo. I thought it would make the office feel more like yours. Linda smiled and put the frame back on the desk. Thank you. That was thoughtful. Eric came in and sat down in one of the chairs in front of her desk. It felt strange to Linda being on the other side of the desk from him. How does it feel? He asked. Being back in the world of technology after all these years? Scary, Linda admitted. I don't even know where to begin. Eric nodded. That's why we're starting with training. For the next 3 months, you'll be learning everything you need to know about current technology, our company, and educational software. He handed her a tablet. This has your schedule. You'll be working with different teams, learning different aspects of the business. There's also time set aside each day for online courses to refresh your programming skills. Linda looked at the schedule. It was full but not overwhelming, and she noticed that it ended at 3 each day. School hours, Eric explained, seeing her look at the end time. So you can be home when Jake gets home from school. Linda felt a lump in her throat. No employer had ever considered her needs as a mother before. Now, Eric continued, let me tell you more about the educational division I want you to lead. For the next hour, Eric explained his vision. Software that would identify students at risk of dropping out. Programs that would connect struggling families with resources. Tools that would help teachers identify different learning styles. The problem with most educational technology, Eric said, is that it's designed by people who have always had advantages. People who don't understand what it's like to have to choose between education and survival. Linda nodded. She understood that choice all too well. Your job, Eric continued, is to bring that perspective to our products, to make sure we're creating technology that really helps the students who need it most. Linda felt a weight on her shoulders. It was a big responsibility, but also an exciting one. I'll do my best, she promised. The next 3 months passed in a blur of learning and challenges. Linda worked harder than she ever had before. She stayed up late studying programming languages. She spent weekends practicing coding. She read books about educational theory and technology development. Some days she felt overwhelmed. The gap between her knowledge and what she needed to know seemed too large to bridge. On those days, she would think about giving up and going back to the diner. But then she would think about Jake's proud face when he told his friends his mom worked at Future Tech. Or she would get a text from Allie saying how nice it was not to worry about money all the time. And Linda would keep going. Eric checked in with her regularly. He never made her feel stupid when she had questions. He never showed disappointment when she struggled with a concept. He was patient and encouraging, just as she had once been with him in high school. One day, about 2 months into her training, Linda was working late in her office. Most of the employees had gone home, but she wanted to finish a coding exercise. Still, here? Eric asked, stopping by her door. Linda looked up and rubbed her tired eyes, just trying to finish this module. Eric came in and looked over her shoulder at the screen. Database structures. Not the most exciting topic. But important, Linda said. I want to understand it properly. Eric sat down across from her. How are you feeling about everything? Be honest. Linda sighed. Some days I feel like I'm making progress. Other days I feel like I'll never catch up. That's normal, Eric assured her. Everyone feels that way sometimes. Even billionaire CEOs? Linda asked with a small smile. Especially billionaire CEOs, Eric laughed. The day you stop feeling like you have more to learn is the day you stop growing. He looked at her more seriously. But that's not really what I'm asking. Are you happy, Linda? Is this what you want? Linda thought about the question. Was she happy? The work was hard. The learning curve was steep. But for the first time in years, she felt like she was using her brain. Like she was making a difference. Yes, she said finally. I'm happy, scared sometimes, overwhelmed often, but happy. Eric smiled. Good. Because next week, I want you to start putting together a team for your division. Linda's eyes widened. Already? But I'm still learning. You'll always be learning, Eric said. That's part of the job, but it's time for you to start building something, time for you to start leading. He stood up and walked to the door. Get some rest, Linda. Big days ahead. After Eric left, Linda sat quietly thinking about his words. He believed in her ability to lead a team, to create something important. It had been so long since anyone had believed in her that way. She closed her computer and picked up the photo of her children. This was for them, she reminded herself. For Allie's future as a doctor, for Jake's dreams of working with computers. But it was also for herself, for the young Linda who had wanted to change the world with technology. Maybe it wasn't too late after all. 1 year later, Linda stood at the front of a large conference room. Behind her, a screen showed the logo for Bridge, the educational software her team had developed over the past 12 months. In front of her sat Eric, the board of directors, and several important investors. Linda wore a dark blue dress that fit her perfectly. Her hair was neatly styled and she stood tall and confident. No one looking at her now would believe that just a year ago she had been serving coffee at Joe's diner. Bridge isn't just another educational program, Linda explained to the room. It's a lifeline for students who might otherwise fall through the cracks of our educational system. She clicked a button and the screen changed to show a simple dashboard. The software identifies students who are at risk of dropping out, not just based on grades but on patterns of attendance, changes in behavior, and other warning signs. Another click showed a different screen. Once a student is identified as at risk, Bridge connects them and their families with resources, financial aid options, tutoring services, mental health support, even assistance with basic needs like food and housing. Linda looked around the room. The board members were paying close attention. Several were nodding. Eric sat at the end of the table, smiling proudly. We've tested Bridge in 5 school districts over the past 6 months, Linda continued. The results have been remarkable. She showed graphs and statistics that told the story of Bridge's success. Dropout rates had decreased by 25% in the test schools. Student performance had improved. Teacher satisfaction was up. But numbers don't tell the whole story, Linda said. Let me show you what Bridge really means. The screen changed to show a video. A teenage girl appeared sitting in what looked like a school library. My name is Zoe, the girl said. Last year my mom got sick and couldn't work. We almost lost our apartment. I was going to drop out of school to get a job. The girl smiled. But my school was using Bridge. The system flagged me as at risk. My counselor connected my mom with medical resources and temporary financial assistance. I was able to stay in school. Now I'm getting ready for college next year. More students shared similar stories. Each one had faced obstacles that could have ended their education. Each one had been helped by Bridge. When the video ended, the room was quiet. Then one of the board members spoke. This is impressive work, Ms. Miller, she said. Very impressive indeed. I agree, said another board member. This could transform educational outcomes for at-risk students. Eric stood up. I propose we move Bridge from pilot phase to full production. We'll offer it to school districts nationwide, with special pricing for under-resourced schools. The board voted unanimously to approve. As they filed out of the room, several stopped to congratulate Linda. When everyone else had left, Eric came over to Linda. You did it, he said. I knew you could. Linda smiled. We did it. I couldn't have done this without your belief in me. No. Eric shook his head. This was all you, Linda. You took my rough idea and turned it into something truly remarkable. They walked together toward Linda's office. The hallways of Future Tech were busy with employees moving between meetings. Have you told Allie and Jake about the board's decision? Eric asked. Not yet, Linda said. Allie is in the middle of finals, and Jake. She smiled as they passed the development lab where Jake now worked part-time after school. Through the glass walls, they could see him sitting with a group of programmers, all focused on their screens. Jake is thriving here, Linda said. He's talking about applying to computer science programs next year. Like mother, like son, Eric said. He has your problem-solving skills. They reached Linda's office. It was larger now, reflecting her position as head of the educational division. Photos of Allie and Jake covered her desk. Awards for bridge lined the walls. I have something to show you, Eric said once they were inside. He handed her a tablet. Linda looked at the screen and gasped. It was an email from MIT. What is this? Reached out to them, Eric explained. Told them about your work on bridge, about your journey. Linda read the email. MIT was offering her a chance to complete her degree through a special executive program. Classes would be online, with just 2 campus visits per year. I can't believe this, Linda whispered. You always regretted not finishing, Eric said. Now, you can. Future Tech will cover all costs, of course. Linda felt tears in her eyes. Eric, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he smiled. It's time to finish what you started all those years ago. Linda nodded, too emotional to speak. After a moment, she looked up at Eric. Why did you really help me? She asked. The truth. Eric sat down across from her. I told you. You helped me when no one else believed in me. But it's more than that, isn't it? Linda pressed. Eric was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. When I saw you at that diner, I realized something. Success isn't just about hard work or intelligence. It's also about luck, about having the right opportunities at the right time. He looked out the window at the Seattle skyline. I've been lucky, but luck isn't distributed equally. I wanted to even the odds just a little bit, for someone who deserved a second chance. Linda understood. In the past year, she had seen how many brilliant people never got the chances they deserved. Bridge was her attempt to change that for students. Eric had done the same for her. There's something else I want to talk to you about, Eric said, changing the subject. Bridge is just the beginning. I want to expand our educational initiatives, create more tools, more resources. Linda smiled. I've been thinking about that too. I have some ideas. They spent the next hour discussing possibilities, new software, scholarship programs, training for teachers, ways to make education more accessible for everyone. As they talked, Linda thought about how much her life had changed in just 1 year. From a waitress struggling to make ends meet to a successful executive creating technology that helped others. From worrying about paying rent to planning her return to MIT. All because Eric had walked into that diner. All because he had recognized her. All because he had believed in her. Later that day, Linda drove home in her new car. She had moved out of the old apartment months ago. Now she and Jake lived in a nice house in a good neighborhood. Allie had her own room for when she came home from college on breaks. As she pulled into the driveway, Linda saw Jake waiting on the porch. He waved excitedly. How did the board meeting go? He asked as she got out of the car. Linda smiled. They approved. Bridge. It's going nationwide. Jake whooped and hugged her. I knew they would. It's the best program ever. Linda hugged him back, feeling a warmth in her heart that had nothing to do with the success of Bridge. This was what mattered most. Her children. Their future. I have news too, Jake said as they went inside. Mr. Daniels offered me a full-time job at Future Tech after I graduate next year, and a full college scholarship if I want it. Linda smiled. Of course Eric had done that. He understood the importance of opportunity, of believing in someone's potential. That night, after Jake went to bed, Linda sat on her porch looking at the stars. She thought about the diner, about the tired woman in the blue uniform, about how quickly life could change when someone believed in you. She made a promise to herself. Bridge was just the beginning. She would keep building programs that gave others the same chance she had been given. The chance to fulfill their potential. The chance to become who they were meant to be. And it had all started because a billionaire had spotted his old school friend working as a waitress.